What is up, guys? You got NotTheWorst here, bringing another Black Desert online video, and today we're taking a look at the new Dehkia's Lantern Aakman version here. New, as in the last couple of months. We've had several new Dehkia Lantern spots come in. This is one of those that was instituted, and decided to check it out. Initially, I was just going to do a 10-hour grind for this spot. I'm sure you saw the title. With it, though, I got to a point where I said, you know what, we'll just keep grinding until I get a Debo earring to drop. And as you can see, this is a 24-hour grind. It took me until my 24th hour to actually drop a Debo earring, although that's actually just really unlucky. The earrings aren't dropping every hour or anything crazy like that. But with that kind of covered, let's jump in to talk about the spot, what does drop there, how to get there, and go from there. So first thing to note is that you can actually path directly into Aakman. You don't have to take a portal. The way to do this, if you have a compass already acquired, the treasure item compass, obviously you can navigate through the desert. If not, you can of course just purchase the compass parts off of the marketplace, combine 3 of those, and you can literally just right click on the icon that exists in the desert so that you can get straight to the entrance and walk directly in from there. From that point, you need to walk all the way down to the base of the stairs at the very bottom of Aakman, and then you're going to just walk in, take a left, and then another left, and you'll find the lantern with the icon above it. And then the room here that we're in while this video is playing here is where the second lantern is. That's through a pathway directly past the first lantern with other little hole in the wall. So that's how you're actually going to get there. As far as the drops that happen here, as you'll note, similar to Aakman, except we also have Debo earrings instituted into this grind zone as well. So we have some artifacts, the Debo earrings. There are Tungrad earrings included here, which is kind of nice since it's a Dehkia lantern spot. One of the most efficient ways to keep your lantern fueled, at least on NA, because I understand other prices might vary, but it's likely this way. It's going to be Pry Tungrad earrings, so it kind of continues your lantern fuel. You're going to get more of these dropping than you actually use throughout the grind hours, so that part of it's kind of nice. Obviously, the price has been impacted from that. It does have Spectre's Energy, Blackstones, quite a lot of Blackstones, as you'll see, sealed BMCs. It does have the Aakman compass parts that drop because it's Aakman, so that makes sense. Caphras, Stones, Dust, Scrolls, and then lastly, the trash loot here is worth 32.9k, which is pretty nice. So that is what is going to drop here. Let's get into talking about the mechanics for this grind zone. So there's not a whole lot to this. You're going to go ahead and use your lantern for it. Obviously, it consumes 20 lantern per usual for this. Nothing unique there. It's going to spawn waves of mobs for you. And you'll kind of notice that the next wave of these mobs doesn't spawn immediately upon killing the previous wave. What actually happens is we have a time limit on this, which sort of kind of puts a cap of the possible amounts of trash loot. As you'll see in the charts, it's going to be really hard to exceed the mid 26k on the upper end. Maybe 27k is achievable on a bit quicker class, possibly. But yeah, you'll kind of see those waves. Even if you clear super fast, you're on a little bit of a wait for a few seconds or what have you in between the next wave. This means that somebody who actually has lower gear and clears a bit slower than somebody with higher gear is likely going to come around to the same amount of trash loot. That also removes quite a bit of class to class variance because we do have this kind of ceiling that's instituted on the top of it. As far as how these waves spawn, they just take that amount of time, and then eventually you're going to have the Flame Man spawn for you, and he's kind of what dictates how good your trash loot is. So if you're kind of hitting the ceiling of spawn time, what you'll actually see makes a huge difference in your trash loot is this guy when you've got your level 2 loot scroll running. He's going to drop anywhere from 600 to 1,000 trash loot by himself. So you have a pretty large roll on the amount of trash loot you get off of him. Imagine that every single Flame Man you spawn for that hour drops 600, and your buddy does the same clear for you, but all of his drop 900. If you had, you know, whatever, 5 different Flame Mans, that's, you know, 2,000 trash loot difference there. It's really significant. So that's where you're really going to see a lot of variance if you're trying to high score your trash loot here. You have to get high rolls on the Flame Man spawns. As far as how he works, I couldn't quite get it narrowed down within those 24 hours to an exact number, but what I did observe is that he never spawned less than 5 minutes, and I had the soonest I ever had him spawn from the time I killed one Flame Man to the next spawn was exactly 5 minutes, so that's worth noting. And I never had him spawn more than 9 minutes from the time I killed the last one. So that stayed true throughout all 24 hours that I looked at it. I'm not saying that's the hard rule and how it is. That's just what I observed. It could be a bit more variance there. He could be 5 to 10 minutes. Maybe I didn't see it. Maybe he can spawn quicker. Maybe I didn't see it. Or it might not necessarily be linked to time. It could be a window with it, because the other thing I did note is I didn't see him spawn any less than 20 waves having been cleared. So the soonest I had ever seen him spawned prior to that is I had to have cleared 20 waves before a Flame Man Flame Man wave would occur. So that could also play into it. Could be, maybe you have to clear that number of waves within a certain time, and then it's a window, then he can spawn. Or maybe my guess here is that the likelihood that he spawns increases as each wave is cleared, and then typically by 9 minutes you're essentially guaranteed at that point, just because I'd never seen one spawn after 9 minutes. Again, your mileage may vary on that, especially if the clear speed or time that it takes to clear number of waves is instituted in that. If you're a bit slower or quicker, that might be a little different. So that's just what I observed. Obviously, I won't know the hard rule without some sort of data extraction for how it works. But should give you some kind of idea with how that overall works. And that's pretty much the only mechanic. There's nothing else really going on here. You're just clearing mobs. It's very chill. The gear for doing this, you can probably get away with, like, honestly, I'd advise probably like the 393, I think is the bracket in that ballpark. Around the 390 DP area for that bracket would be nice. I could see someone skilled doing this at 371 pretty easily. Honestly, it's not that bad by any means. And since we have the new indicators of the AP restrictions and whatnot within the game, which was a really, really great addition. It's a 1000 AP cap. It is a demi-human demi-human spot. So if you're hitting that 1000 AP cap, which is pretty easy these days for most late game players, you can run the demi-human Lightstone set, the wilds, to maximize on that. If you want to run like all-out attack or watch your back, something like that, you could, but the demi-human set is going to be the best for here, especially because back attacks aren't super important in this area with those wave spawns happening. The recommended total AP stat for this is around 920, so keep that in mind if you're going to give it a shot. You could probably get away with a bit lower, especially with some DP debuffs and whatnot spooled up for you. So now that we've covered that, let's go ahead and get into the fun part, see the spreadsheets, and look how these 24 hours shook out for us. Just kidding, no spreadsheets yet. Quick note that I forgot to mention because I don't use them. When we talk about mechanics, there are actually, as you notice, some red circles that are around. These little spires, as you see pop up everywhere from time to time, do deal some damage, but to be honest with you, unless you're like trying this place at much, much lower than recommended stats, it's pretty insignificant. And then also, once the more glowing spires kind of activate there, they'll delete the mobs that are within the zone that it gives you, so that circle is actually a good thing. However, again, if you're at the appropriate gear for this spot, it slows you down trying to use those, as you see in the example that's playing. So I don't use these mechanics whatsoever. It's strictly slower than just killing the mobs, or especially if you need to move the mobs over to a spot. Waiting on them to come over to a circle just doesn't make any sense. I completely forgot to include this portion as far as mechanics go in the initial recording, because I 100% ignore all of them, as you can see in the demoed video. This may be more pertinent to you if you're trying it at lower gear, but yeah, anyways, just wanted to make sure I mentioned that. So now, not kidding, we're heading to the spreadsheets. Okay, so here we have our spreadsheet, which is, I'm sure, what most people want to see, how the money shook out for these and what have you across this 24 hours. As I mentioned in the beginning of the video, I just kept going until I dropped one Debo earring, which took me, it was about 5 minutes into my 24th hour. So if you want to call it 23 hours and 5 minutes, sure, but I completed 24 hours getting a single Debo earring to drop, which was tons of fun, let me tell you. Something to note, I did, if you want to check out this chart, I have it linked to the book of spreadsheets in the description if you want to see it individually. Just something to note, I forgot to turn my loot scroll on for 20 minutes on this particular hour, so you can see obviously the trash loot was impacted a bit from that on it. So the overall average, it came about 24.2. I think at a peak in the 26 ballpark, high 25s to 26K. I think was about where we ended up. Low ends being like 23, not counting the one where I didn't have a loot scroll on. 22. I did a lot of these on stream as well, so it wasn't, I can't say that it was fully engaged at all times. Keep in mind the way the Flame Man's trash loot works is going to give you that sort of variance. As far as Debos, obviously, unfortunately, we don't get a very good idea of the data for Debo drop rate from just this alone, since I just got incredibly unlucky. with it. The thing is, the variance on this is pretty high. From what I can tell, 3 to 4 hours is pretty standard for this area, just looking at other people's data that's been reported out. So because it's such a scarce item, 3 to 4 hours can obviously give you variance where you're 24 hours with nothing, and on the other end, you're going to have an hour where you drop like 3 or something insane because it's BDO, and that's just RNG, right? Compass pieces, I dropped the Aakman piece, interestingly enough, 4 times before I dropped 1 Debo earring, so just to note that it's a very, very, very quick to obtain that comparatively to other treasure items. And something else I wanted to point out about the Flame Man specifically, not only is his trash heavy RNG, his Caphras rolls are pretty RNG as well. You can see like a pretty insane variance in the low end to high end on Caphras rolls because of how many he can drop, including he can drop 0. The normal mobs can drop 1 as well. So you can see I averaged 52, but the swing on this was the low end 2. And not kidding, I literally got 2 Caphras, meaning Flame Man never dropped any, and I dropped single Caphras off random mobs there, and the high end being 98. Just a very, very large roll on his Caphras and trash loot differences there, which is kind of interesting, if nothing else. About 37 BMCs, we see 173 dust. Blackstone's about 169 or so. On there, the scroll is about 23 per hour there. We saw around 2 Tungrads per hour. Again, variance, you see those spread out anywhere from 0 to 4 was what I experienced within this session. The Debos are not even going to register on this because I don't have enough decimal points to factor 1 out of 24 hours. And Compass, it was 4 in 24 hours. I didn't bother factoring that out. So we ended up with a peak trash of 2.2, almost 2.3 billion silver. And then on the low end, coming in, I think 1.1 on that hour where I forgot to turn my loot scroll on for 20 minutes, obviously. So 1.16 there. Gave us an average of about 1.4, almost 1.5 bill, depending on your Debo luck. Here, the upside is being a baseline of around 1.5 billion silver, depending on your trash loot pulls and stuff, and how many Tungrads is pretty nice. And then the Debo is kind of icing on the cake. I know a lot of people like to enhance those to TET as long as the prices continue to hold above 64 billion to try and profit that way. So it's definitely an option. If you're looking for the Compass piece, you're probably going to drop it quicker than you drop sets of Debos to enhance in all likelihood, just because of how available they are. So it's a great spot to grind because it's very relaxed and easy, and the gear access to be able to grind here is pretty low, despite what the recommended settings are on there. It's pretty capable. They don't really do anything. There aren't a lot of mechanics to actually worry about or care about that are going to impact you anyways. The red circles exist, but for the most part, you're just ignoring those. Don't stand in red circles, and that's kind of it. So there you have it. Let me know what you guys think about the spot in the comments, and I'll check those out as well. Again, the spreadsheet is shared in the shared folder that is linked in the description. So that's going to be it for this video. I want to thank everybody for watching, and I will see you next time.